Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 2022, a new year in Phoenix Suns basketball, a new year that's led off by a 34-point drubbing of the
Oh,
Charlotte
no.
Hornets. Matthew, 34
Yeah.
point drubbing. The
Yeah,
Charlotte
dude.
Hornets got smoked tonight by the Phoenix Suns, man. How about that?
It's brilliant. It makes me very, very happy, John. How many posters can we get in one night?
Dude,
It got
it's
to the
Poster
point where I think
City tonight.
every Suns player wanted a poster tonight. The high flying Suns over the high flying Hornets. High flyers, when you think of high flyers, you think of the Hornets team. And nope, Suns
Definitely.
brought it tonight. Yeah, Suns brought it with two guys that you would never think as a high flyer, Jalen Smith and Bismack Biyombo, Mr. Big Mac.
Yeah. Big Mack, Biyombo, and Jalen Smith both dishing out posters tonight. And you're right. I mean, the Charlotte Hornets are definitely a team that has a lot of athleticism, a great point guard in LaMelo Ball, and Kelly Oubre, Miles Bridges, and you think that they'd be the ones who are just getting the posterizing dunks time and time again. Wasn't the case tonight. It was the Phoenix Suns who came out focused and truly responded after a disappointing New Year's Eve game in Boston. They went down to Charlotte, win by a final score of 133-99 over the Hornets. That's the second time we beat the Hornets this year, and I think both are over 30 points. We beat them by 31 earlier this year, earlier this season.
Mhm.
If I remember correctly. But I mean, a
Yeah.
fantastic showing by the Phoenix Suns, right?
Yeah, a lot of points, a lot of trash talking, and then Booker backs it up with a 20-point first half. So he's back. He's back,
Yeah.
baby.
He's back, baby. He's not rusty anymore. So, plenty to talk about on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. Whether you're watching along live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, or you're listening to the podcast, we appreciate you coming here for your Phoenix Suns content and listening to the best post-game podcast on Planet Orange. If you happen to be listening to this podcast on Spotify, please give us a 5-star. You just click the little 5-star button. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you give us a 5-star review. You give us 5 stars and write a review. We'll read it right here on the show. If you happen to be watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, please hit the thumbs up button. Or head over to YouTube and hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe, rate, review, all that fun stuff. If you want to become an elite jamster, simply click the join button on YouTube or follow the link in the description on this podcast. Without further ado, it's time to talk about everything that we got going on. Matthew, before we do, can you tell me about what's going on behind you? It looks like you got some new artwork
Yeah.
up there from one of our loyal jamsters. Quick shout out to anyone who wants to have their artwork displayed behind Matthew on the podcast. Simply hit us up at Suns Jam on Twitter in our DMs, and we'll have it displayed. Matthew, what do you got going on there?
Yeah, so KT So Wavy at KT So Wavy actually reached out to her to see if I can put this drawing up behind me. It's a fun little DeAndre Ayton drawing. I'm like, we miss DeAndre Ayton, right?
Yes.
Stix really filling his shoes, but a little drawing with little DAs all over the place to make up a DA. Beautiful face, a lot of scruff on his face. So I reached out. I was like, "Could I use this for the Suns Jam Session Pod?" She said yes, and here we are. I realized I had to reach out to people because
No one's
Jamsters,
submitting.
all the Jamsters. I mean, we have 5 of you guys. They don't really. I mean, they're all not going to be artists. So I have to reach out whenever I see on Twitter. I'll reach out to them to see if I can use it. So
Well,
I've
there
had
you
to do
go.
that, and a good response
There
so
you
far.
go. At KT So Wavy. Great artwork for, that looks like DeAndre Ayton. And we, like you said, Matthew, we miss him. We miss the big fella. We did it tonight, though. We did it tonight. Suns look good.
No,
Suns look good. So
yes.
time to pop him if you got him, Suns fans. Let's do this, Matthew. You got
New
a VA
year, V8
original.
juice.
New,
Yeah, new
new
year.
year, new you.
New year, new me.
Well, let's pop them. Let's talk about this fantastic win for the Phoenix Suns over the Charlotte Hornets. Cheers. The Phoenix Suns are now 28-8 on the season after a dominating win in Charlotte over the Hornets, which brings me to a question I have for you, Matthew.
Matthew, I got to ask.
Matthew, I gotta ask, should the Suns offer Bismack Biyombo a veteran minimum deal moving forward, or have we forgotten about Frank Kaminsky too soon?
Oh, it's a good question. Well, if he puts up like a good performance like this, the energy, some guy where you're looking for Landry Shamet for that energy, for the shot making, but hey, Bismack Biyombo to come in and be that big body to actually get a second chance points. That's exactly what we needed in the last game. He came in, got the job done. He was ready. He kept in shape. So you want him to come in and be someone that can run the pick and roll. Even with Cameron Payne, that was kind of working today too. And I was thinking, I'm like, you know what? If this guy can just stay on our team, if Frank Kaminsky, of course, who knows the timetable really for this guy, if he can stay on our team, because the COVID thing, who knows when that's going to be over. It's good to have that big body, especially some guy who looks just so happy to be here. You could just tell in his eyes, he's like, oh, this opportunity. I love this. This is your guy too, John, Mr. Big Mac. So him playing with the Suns is something that you wanted. But I knew as soon as we got him, I'm like, a lot of Suns fans like this on Twitter that I was seeing, and this is why, because he's big, the energy's there, and he can give you those put back points that we need.
Well, I mean, you think about it, when it comes to the Phoenix Suns, the one when healthy, the one glaring weakness, and I wouldn't even call it glaring, it's just a weakness, is the four, right? That's what people talk about, the backup four. Because when healthy, you have DeAndre Ayton, backed up by JaVale McGee, who's backed up by Frank Kaminsky. So you don't necessarily need Bismack Biyombo to be a part of this team to be successful. But I think that if you do decide to go with a veteran minimum deal for this guy, which the Suns still have available, it's definitely plausible that he does a 10-day contract, he does another 10-day contract, and they do end up signing him to that veteran minimum deal. To your point, we don't know when Frank Kaminsky's coming back. It adds another layer of depth. It moves Jalen Smith into more of a four role, and it makes Bismack Biyombo your backup to the backup when it comes to the center position. What it also does is it allows the Phoenix Suns to play with some lineups if they want to throughout the regular season. Because let's face it, the regular season's long. We've seen it a couple times over the past about 2 or 3 weeks, where Monty Williams has actually been experimenting with different lineups to see how different pieces fit together. How maybe when the time comes and you're playing specific opponents in the postseason, if you need to go all big, having a Bismack Biyombo lineup where maybe he's playing the five, maybe DA's playing the four. I mean, you could get really creative with stuff like that because DA has the ability to spread the floor. He can shoot from three. He just chooses not to. And as we learned, obviously in the postseason and the NBA Finals last year, having size is something that is definitely needed. DeAndre Ayton at the four. What do you think about that?
I don't like it. I like DA
Why
at the
not?
5 always. Because this is always a topic with DA. I feel like we just throw it out there randomly, not us, but I just always keep hearing it. DA at the 4, play someone at the 5. I think DA playing at the 5, even like a Stix, someone just said in the chat, put Stix at the 4. I like Stix at the 5 too. You don't want us to be so enormous. You don't want to be the biggest guy in the court. But what DA can do at the 5 is really spread the floor. He can be the guy to really pass it around the perimeter. He has great passing skills, and he's a big man. He can get the boards. Whenever he puts forth the effort, he can grab every board he really wants if he wants to. You know what I mean? If he's in the area of the vicinity, he's a guy that can grab it. So I want him underneath the basket. I just don't like DA at the 4. I just don't. It doesn't look sexy. It's not the thing that's ever happened, and I don't think it's ever going to happen with the Suns. I know DA wants it, but right now his best fit is at the 5. But if you want to put Bismack Biyombo at the 5 as a backup 5, I do like that too. I like how, especially tonight when he has a poster dunk, which is brilliant because that's one thing that we didn't really expect going into this game is anything as much. We were excited for him to be on the team, but we didn't really expect him to come in and put that kind of dominating dunk on the Hornets. So you have him behind DA, you have him as a high energy guy. Not saying that he could teach DA anything, but it's kind of a switch up, right? Because you see that DeAndre is more of a finesse guy than you have Bismack Biyombo to come in, and he could be the guy that's a little bit more force. But I mean, DA playing the 4, do you like that? Is that something that you still want? You want to see him at the 4?
I think that it's something we could experiment with throughout the regular season. I don't think it's something that will utilize in the postseason unless we're forced to. But if let's say that you have Bismack Biyombo as your backup to the backup, right? You can maybe try a couple lineups where you have JaVale McGee, who we know lives in the paint. You have DA, playing the 4, and we pretty much go into like Tim Duncan, David Robinson mode. Because DA, due to his lateral quickness and his athleticism, can guard a lot of fours in this league. He's shown that he can guard guards in this league if he needs to. So again, I don't think that it's prudent. I don't think that it's something that the Suns will necessarily need, but I think it's something they can experiment with. And if it shows that it's successful, it's another trick in your bag. And that's one thing that we ran out of in the NBA Finals is we ran out of tricks in our bags because we lost Dario Saric and we had no other big men to really play minutes. Monty Williams said that he wanted to play, or he should have played, Frank Kaminsky a little bit more. But we know that Frank defensively with Giannis out there on the court would just get cooked. So, I mean, I think that having somebody like Bismack Biyombo be a part of this team moving forward. Now, obviously, I bring this up because that I'm a big Bismack Biyombo fan. I wanted him on the Suns last year. I thought it was funny. He comes in, he instantly gets a block. I'm like, bam, that's why I wanted him last year. When we went through our trade deadline / buyout guys last year, there were two guys who I was really big on. I was really big on JaVale McGee, and I was really big on Bismack Biyombo, both being members of the Phoenix Suns, because I knew that we needed depth at the 5. We needed size on the interior, knowing that we would most likely have to play the Lakers, which we did, knowing that we would probably have to play the Denver Nuggets, which we did, but we smoked, and not even thinking about the Eastern Conference. But I know that both of those teams have really deep, or last season had really deep big guys. And I think that was a problem that I saw and identified for the Suns. So I was a big fan of him last year. So it's funny because 2021 version of me, which is so last year, is so happy because I got both the guys eventually that I wanted.
I
know what I'm saying?
That never happens. And what's crazy too is we have two guys like Bismack, and then if Frank ever comes back, whatever's happening with that, two guys that can really crash the offensive boards. That's something we've never had. We have it with McGee, we have it with Bismack now, we have it with DeAndre. It's nonstop. These dudes are just coming in, and I guess it's maybe because they just want to play for the Suns. I don't know what else it is, because in the past it never happened.
Well, I mean, it's at that time right now where everybody in the NBA is trying to survive, and those 10-day contracts are going out like hotcakes. And it just so happens that the Phoenix Suns have a need on the interior, which we saw. I mean, we saw that, against Boston. We had no interior depth behind Jalen Smith, so Bismack Biyombo made sense. He wore number 18 tonight, and I know you won't know you won't know this.
I gotta start looking this stuff up, man.
You got to come in just like ready, because I'm going to ask about the numbers. I always do. The two players there's only other two players have worn number 18 in the history of the Phoenix Suns. Can you guess anybody? It hasn't been since 1998.
1998.
This is the last time somebody wore number 18.
No idea.
Hot Rod Williams did 1996 to 1998. If you remember, Hot Rod Williams is who the Phoenix Suns traded Dan Marley to Cleveland for Hot Rod Williams. Before that, it was Curtis Perry, 1975 to 1978. So, I mean, it's been a long time since anybody wore number 18 for the Phoenix Suns. Fabio in the chat. Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
And Jay Schneck got it right. He said Hot Rod Williams. So, yeah, if you're smart, Jamsters, you should know, just like if there's someone new on the Suns and they got a jersey on, I'm probably going to look it up.
Come in. Have your notes ready.
Have your notes ready. But I really think that, his addition, Bismack Biyombo's addition to this team, obviously was beneficial tonight because it really assisted the Phoenix Suns in, as you mentioned, not only crashing the offensive glass, but just providing shot deterrence at the rim. That's something that God, who did we play 2 games ago? I keep forgetting. Was it the Thunder? Yeah, the Thunder were running a layup line against the Phoenix Suns. And then you had the Boston Celtics were doing much of the same. So when you have both of those occurring, picking up somebody like Bismack Biyombo, absolutely paramount for this team. You look at the rebound differential. I'm sorry. If you remember, I think it was we were -14 against the Boston Celtics. We out-rebounded the Charlotte Hornets tonight, the Horny Hornets, if you will, 52-35. We nearly out-rebounded them by 17 rebounds tonight, man. And you look up and down the box score, and you see that Jalen Smith had 12. Bismack Biyombo had 6 coming off the bench. Devin Booker had 7. Chris Paul had 6. Mikal Bridges had 5. I really think that, without Monty Williams in Charlotte with the team, but with KY, Kevin Young, running the team, I really think that was the focus. It was listen, we need to crash those boards. I mentioned on the last podcast, Jalen Smith was on his own Every time a shot went up, every member of the Suns just started running down the other side of the court. Nobody crashed the boards, and you saw that difference happen this evening in where the Phoenix Suns actually were crashing the boards and doing what they could to provide support to Jalen Smith, who was our starting center this evening.
Yeah, crashing the boards leads to the fast breaks, leads to outrunning this Hornets team that likes to play fast, likes to score a lot, but that was the Suns tonight. I mean, it wasn't like, the Hornets were just missing their shots. It was just basically the Suns were just making everything and playing very, very fast tonight, inefficient. It wasn't too fast and too crazy. It was fast to the point to where they could still set up an offense or else get a nice set shot. So all the players were in sync tonight, including Cameron Payne and Cameron Johnson, who were running the fast break. Basically in a way where, if they were ready for the catch and shoot, they were ready. They had even Cameron Johnson tonight had a great catch and shoot tonight from Chris Paul on a fast break where they were just ready and set in motion. It was a different kind of Suns team tonight. I think it was because of the loss last game against the Celtics really pissed them off. We even heard on the broadcast how Devin Booker and Chris Paul were absolutely just annoyed after last game, of course, because they couldn't help their own team. And then they come out and Chris Paul only had 7 points, but the assists were through the roof. So they're playing fast when that's happening, and these guys are just making their shots from the perimeter.
Yeah, I made a note in my notes, which
you noted.
I noted in my notes that it was a crisp start by the starters, and the Suns were pushing the ball on the break, which is something we don't really see very often. The Phoenix Suns are definitely a team that likes to play in control. They're a team that, although they are, what's their pace currently in the league? Do you have that number up?
No, the pace of the Suns.
Yeah, what's their pace of play currently? Let's see. They are fifth in the NBA in pace. So they're normally a team that does play fast, but they don't play out of control fast, which is something I think that the Charlotte Hornets definitely do, right? Like they are just like so did you watch the Fiesta Bowl yesterday?
I did not. I apologize.
Son of a bitch.
I know I'm not a good
Notre Dame fan are you?
Not a good dude. You even asked about the Yankees. I didn't even watch the Yankees last year at all, too. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with me.
Different, man. Anyways, my point is the Notre Dame played Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl yesterday, and the Oklahoma State Cowboys, they played and their pace of play reminded me very much of the Oregon Ducks under Chip Kelly. It's like just go 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 go. So by the fourth quarter, Notre Dame was so gassed that they ended up losing. They lost. They lost by 2 points, but it was very, there you go. So says Jay, says it perfectly. Frenetic. It's a frenetic pace they play with. And I feel like the Charlotte Hornets typically, what you're looking at what frenetic means?
Frenetic, fast, and energetic. I thought you made that word up.
No, frenetic, fast, and energetic.
Frantic, huh?
But that's the way that the Charlotte Hornets normally play. And that was, one of the questions I had for you. Seeing as we don't really see the Phoenix Suns play with a lot of speed and run fast breaks the way that they do you think that this was the LaMelo Ball effect?
Oh, just meaning like because they're playing against LaMelo Ball, they kind of want to match that? Is that what
kind
they're
of?
This
Yes.
game? Yeah, I could see that. I think with LaMelo Ball, there's something between him and Devin Booker, of course. Like good shit talking again today. It is. It's kind of you want to play this guy. You don't want him to outshine your team. And LaMelo went through a little stretch there where he made 2 threes in a row in the third, where it's like he started to get hot a little bit. But I think when a team plays LaMelo, and I mentioned last time they played him, like the jersey count, how many jerseys you're going to see between LaMelo Ball and Devin Booker. That's a thing, I guess, because he is a superstar. So you kind of want to quiet those guys. When you do play against them, you want to quiet them. You want to quiet their team. You don't want them to like get the alley-oops down. You want to outplay them in a fast pace, because if they start getting Miles Bridges up in the air and they're giving us the posters, then it's going to be one of those games that's like, oh, could we pull it out in the end? So quieting him down is good because he is that good of a player already, to where he can just control the pace of a game if you let him. And the Suns defensively played very, very well against him tonight. You didn't even really notice him tonight. You didn't notice this whole Hornets team anyways. So.
No. Yeah. I mean, it was just, and again, you look at the last time the Phoenix Suns played against the Charlotte Hornets, they had their best offensive rating game of the year with a 129.5. And from a pace standpoint, they had their second highest pace of play game at 105.8. And so that's, 105. I forget how that metric is determined. It's an estimated of possessions per 48 minutes. So they had their second most possessions per against them, against the Hornets last time, and
Yeah.
now they had 103 field goal attempts. So my assumption is you take that 103 field goal attempts and you do the math on that minus the turnovers, what have you. This is another game where they probably had another high pace of play. So there's something about playing the Charlotte Hornets, and that's my point. There's something about playing the Charlotte Hornets that brings out this frenetic. Wait, such a beautiful word. So says Jay. Such a beautiful word.
Word of
This
the day.
frenetic, this frenetic pace in the Phoenix Suns, and kind of to your point, I was kind of disappointed with LaMelo Ball in this game. And don't get me wrong, he's somebody who we both have kind of written down as our number 2 non-Sun player who's in their 4th season or younger favorite player.
Yeah.
And there's moments where you can see why, because he does have a dynamic way that he plays. But 5 for 12, had 17 total points, only had 1 assist in this game, so you really didn't see the playmaking. And if you look at the plus minus, which I know doesn't really necessarily mean anything in a 1-game span, he was a team worst and a game worst, negative 32 in this game. What the hell happened to LaMelo Ball?
I don't know. He seemed like he had the campaign effect. So what I think is happening right now in the NBA is campaign has lost that thing that was just that bad aura he had about him, where he would get up in the air a lot in the paint and just kind of pass the ball away. It'd be really late in decision making, because I think this is 2 games in a row where maybe it was against OKC where this really started, where he's just rubbing off against these other point guards who LaMelo was doing it tonight. LaMelo was like getting in the lane and he was kind of jumping up in the air thinking that someone would be up there. But even Chris Paul, they were all playing the passing lanes really well tonight, to where they were preventing him to finding anybody. And he really wasn't getting a shot off. I said earlier that he had the 2 threes in a row where it's like, oh, he might get hot here. But then the Suns stopped it after that. So him trying to find his teammates is really just him getting to the lane and trying to find somebody, dish it out, and making a fantastic pass like he usually does around his head or through the legs or through his body, whatever, to somebody wide open for a shot. But it just wasn't there because the Suns were playing the passing lane as well. Like, they came out defensively. They were ready to grab the boards. They were ready to just knock everything away that was near them. They did. They didn't want him to get going. I just think that's a thing. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it is a thing with him. And every team, I'm sure, scouting, going into these game plans, they have to point that out, that these teams need to be up there energy-wise against the Charlotte Hornets team.
Yeah, that's the best way to attack them, because they're a team that will boat race you before you know it. And I think we saw that last year. If I remember correctly, last year when we played them, there was one game where I don't know if we won it or we came back and made it interesting at the end, but they came out with such intensity and hustle that the Suns found themselves down 20 before halftime. And that's what this team does. They live off that energy because they have the high flyers. They have the Miles Bridges. They have Kelly Oubre coming off the bench. They got Gordon Hayward, who provides a steadying presence and can hit jumpers and play a little bit of defense, not much. So they have the necessary tools to come out and just punch you in the face. And if you're not ready for it, they can build upon that lead. But they're a team that does have the worst defense in the league, and we saw that tonight. I mean, you can credit the Phoenix Suns, who ended this game shooting a total of 50.5% from the field and went 17 of 41 from deep, which is 41.5%. So you can definitely credit the Phoenix Suns, because their shooting was back. The thing that they left in Boston at the TD Garden did not follow them on the plane to Charlotte. But that being said, the Charlotte Hornets didn't make it tough for Phoenix either. There was a lot of middies in the lane that were uncontested. There was a lot of open opportunities that the Phoenix Suns took advantage of. And I want to give a shout out to Devin Booker, who, 9 for 19 from the field, 24 points. I think that he really kind of set the pace for the Phoenix Suns in this game. It's something that we kind of missed out on the last game. He had a rough start, and he just felt like he was constantly trying to find his shot throughout the duration of the game in Boston. But if you look at the first quarter for Devin Booker, he went 5 for 7 from the field, including 2 of 3 from deep, 14 points there. He ended the first half with a total of 20 points. So he really set the standard for the Phoenix Suns. I mean, they had 73 points at halftime because Devin Booker opened up the lane, and everyone else is like, oh, shit, this is going to be a night where we could all shoot and no one's going to try to stop us, right?
Yeah, no one bothered the last game. No one bothered it more than, I can't even spit that one out. All right. Booker was pissed after last game. So he came out in the first. There's first quarter. Book is back, baby. And we needed it. We definitely needed it. Whether or not they're gonna cream this team, whether or not they're gonna beat this team by 40 points, 20 points, or it's a close game, you still need Book to come out and set the tone after the last game where we're looking forward to it. He did it. And I don't know who was really even watching the first quarter because of the stupid fucking Cowboys. Oh, excuse my language, stupid Cowboys losing to the Cardinals. So I missed a little bit of it. But yeah, so Book had a great game tonight. Honestly, think even in the third quarter, he just had that look running up and down the court. I like his little jog he always does down the sideline, like, look at me. Like, he was just caressing that lead in the third quarter. When they're up 20 plus, he's just like going through the motions, hitting a couple shots in the third, getting to 24 points, and then all the posters just start happening, and it's just over after that. So it just seemed like he knew this game was over. My favorite part of the game for Devin Booker was when he was trash talking LaMelo Ball after the missed technical foul that was called on Stix from that poster.
Yes.
And I don't even know what he said to him, but he was just talking to him when
he just
LaMelo was walking
flexed
back
on
to
him, man.
Yeah, it was awesome. So that was a good back-to-back play. The technical and then the shit talking from Devin Booker. But it's good to have him back. I mean, it was just one missed game really from him, and it was sucky.
Yeah.
So he's more pissed than we were.
And again, as I said on the last pod, like, I didn't expect us to win in Boston, given the fact that we were without any front line. And kudos to James Jones and the Phoenix Suns organization for recognizing that and going and giving Bismack Biyombo. I mean, that's and what better team to play against for his first game back than the Charlotte Hornets? A team that he's played on for a bunch of years. I mean, he definitely is comfortable in that arena, whatever the hell the name of their arena is. He's
Beautiful
very comfortable.
Floor.
Yeah, beautiful looking hives all over the place. But I mean, again, it's Devin Booker came back and had a solid game after having a couple bad ones. And Mikal Bridges, I know it was only 15 points for Mikal, but that's what I was saying on the last pod. Like, that's what I like from Mikal. It was like 15. He went 6 for 12. He was taking his shots, but he looked a lot more like he had an offensive rhythm in this game. It was a good response for him following a couple of duds, right?
Yeah, I mean, more than a couple to me. I think it was a longer stretch. So he looked like there was one just short-armed little runner he had, but then after that, in the second quarter, the next one he kind of extended his hand and it looked more like he pushed a shot. He pushed a shot forward, just more confidence on it and went in nothing but net. He just knew the last one just short-armed it. So he's like, let me actually get some confidence in my step. And then after that, man, he was like hitting the step back three. Just dribbling up to the 3-point line, knocking the three down. These are just things that I think Mikal's really improving on. Really improved this game, and hopefully he can carry to the next game because he's been going through slumps where we talked about his back maybe being an issue where we just threw it out there as a rumor, but that's just the way he looks like he's playing.
Yeah.
But tonight it didn't seem like anything was affecting him. It looked like he was just really comfortable and just playing the way that he was playing before his slump. And the defense is always there, right? But the 3-point shot looked different. Like, usually I just get annoyed when he shoots a three, but the three looked like it's like I belong here. It was just like a confident shot, but like it just little dribbles and like, oh, pop shot. Like, it just looked like a different kind of Mikal tonight, and I love to see that because he was still getting into the paint, hitting his little jump shot. So that was nice to see. Good game overall, and I'm really happy to have him back because we need him right down the stretch. Eddie Johnson even brought up too. Tired legs. You never think about that after the 18-game win streak. It's going to happen. So we need other guys randomly to step up. And tonight he was one of them, even though, of course, we didn't need him as much. But hopefully this continues to the next game and the next game after that.
Well, I think a lot of it tonight was the fact that, again, a lot of his points I felt came in transition or came off of transition possessions. So the defense wasn't necessarily set. I know a couple of his threes came in transition. So he really had some just different looks. It was less of a slow down, I've got to create a shot on my own within the confines of a half court set. It was, hey, we're in transition. It's a 4-on-4 or 3-on-4 or what have you. And because of that, I think that he really shined. And again, had the confidence to get back in that rhythm. Because you're right, definitely look confident tonight, and that's what I've been asking for. Again, I'm okay with his contract because he's somebody who plays defense at the level that he does play defense. But I do expect some offense out of that contract, especially on nights where, again, you're without Jay Crowder, you're without DeAndre Ayton, you're without JaVale McGee, you're without Monty Williams. So you're without so many players. This is when he needs to step up or at least contribute. And he did a fantastic job contributing tonight. Another guy who contributed tonight was one Landry Shamet. Ended with 24 minutes, 17 points, 5 for 8 from deep, 6 for 9 from the field. Matthew, should I eat my words from the last podcast?
Yeah, but I was going to say he ended the night 3 for 3 in a row. And I was like, oh, dude, that's nice. Like, that's going to make John eat his words, as you just brought up. But he did start the game out 2 for 4 from 3, which was nice. I saw in the box score after I didn't really catch the first quarter too much. So he started out the game pretty well. But I mean, it's kind of a game where he just looked comfortable because of the lead. So maybe you think of it like, was he just comfortable hitting his shots because of the lead and maybe because of who they were playing this night or tonight? And could we count on him to be like this in the future? So it's kind of one of those games where I just throw it away. Could we just throw this game away and just see what he can bring when we actually really, really need him? Good on him for hitting 3 threes in a row. We needed that, I guess, in the fourth quarter, right? Going into the fourth quarter, but we do need that in games like against the Celtics, like any game we play in the future where we have injuries and we need someone to step up. If Booker's not hitting shots, we need you to step up and hit shots. Tonight, I'm going to throw this one away.
Well, I'll give it, Jay Pizzle says in the chat, and a reminder to anyone who is watching along live on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up button down below. But Jay Pizzle says Shamet has to be the best player in history in garbage time. And I feel like that's where the majority of his points occurred. Looking at the box score in the first through third quarter, Landry Shamet had a total of 6 points. Okay, he ends with 17, so he dropped 9 in the fourth quarter when it didn't matter. And Khalid Y says, "What do you got to say about Landry now, John?" You know what? Hashtag trade Shamet. How about that? I'm still on board of trading Shamet. I still think
so.
That
This helps his trade value, huh?
This ups his trade value. Yeah, he had a couple.
Yeah, start recording.
Here's what it comes down. Yeah, Kyle, get the camera. Trade Shamet. No, here's where I'm at with Shamet. Okay, I'm still pissed off at him because again, when we really needed him, he didn't fricking show up. Right, and that's kind of been par for the course for him thus far this season. If Landry Shamet can average 10 points over a 5-game span, okay, 5 games, 50 total points for Landry Shamet, I will once again play his drop for him again. Okay, until then, he's got to do it. He's got to do it. So I'm happy he did what he did tonight. That's what I want him to do. But I want him to do it like you said, Matthew, when we need him to do it. Not, again, if you take out the fourth quarter, he ends with 6 points. If you take out the fourth quarter, Landry Shamet ends with a total of hold on. He had 11 points in the fourth quarter. I did my math wrong. But if you take out the fourth quarter, he went 2 for 4 from the field, as you mentioned, and he had a turnover and a couple fouls. So he hasn't done anything yet to get me over there. And that's the fun part about doing this podcast, right? This is like the ongoing saga of Landry Shamet and John's frustration with him. Because I hit the tipping point on New Year's Eve, and that's good. We're going to see from here how he performs moving forward. Because again, I want him. Obviously, I'm the one who wrote all the fanboy articles on BrightSideOfTheSun.com. Great website. Go check it out. We put out great content there. But I wrote all the fanboy stuff about Landry Shamet, and I was the one who wanted him to do well and to be the Devin Booker spell. Every time Booker's on the off. Who's leading the game off by scoring as many points as he does in the first half. Landry Shamet's the guy who's coming in and spelling him. You just get nonstop onslaughted by our 2 guard, and he just hasn't done it this season. So, 17 points. Let's do this. Let's do this, man.
Yeah, and really quick, let's just focus the energy too. If you want that guy to step up, let's just focus it on the big guys like Bismack Biyombo and Jalen Smith, because those guys you can count on. Let's feed those guys if you want to actually kind of compete with teams. If Booker and Chris Paul are struggling, let's get those guys going, because those guys look like they can help a team get over a hump or stay with the team when your superstars are struggling. I would go to them more.
No, I completely agree. Those are the guys who, again, it's more high percentage shot anyways. But speaking of Stix.
Stix report.
Jalen Smith tonight. Fantastic game. Once again, 19 points, 12 rebounds, 8 for 15 from the field. And as one of our loyal Jamsters says, Blaze Megatron says, R.I.P. Plumlee, LOL. Because that posterization he had on Plumlee, I don't know if it was Miles or Mason or whatever fucking Plumlee it is, Mason Plumlee, was just spectacular. I mean, and I got to ask you this, Matthew. Has Jalen Smith had, in your opinion, a bad game this season? Any game that you would define as a bad game? Has he really had one?
Looking around. Yeah, absolutely. He's had a couple bad ones early in the season.
You
Like
think
we
so?
just, I just remember the trash talking on Twitter. Like it was it was trade Stix, trade all that. It was before in the season, and it's fine because what happens if when you give these guys reps, they turn into something that you just never knew existed because they have the reps. That's all this is really, and it's kind of a slow buildup, especially in this game where it's get that shit out of here, Stix leads to like the Mari dunk, right?
Yes.
From that year, like that dunk. Oh, I got up out of my seat for that one definitely, and I'm telling you, this is just something that it was building and building and building. And it got to the point where he's yelling, getting the tech. And that's an okay tech because I like that out of him, especially when you have a 30-point lead. Who gives a crap? Get the technical. We're still going to win the game. But that energy he has, it's weird because last game where we're talking about how he's kind of fumbling and bumbling around on the court when he's trying to block the shot, right? You didn't see that tonight at all. So maybe that was something pointed out and he adjusted that way. He got his blocks, but he wasn't falling all over himself doing it. Like he just keeps improving
Yes.
game to game to game to game. And it's just a confidence building from the reps, dude. It's just how many players in the league really just don't get the opportunity, don't get the reps, and they're just sitting there like, dude, like I'm just never gonna have a career. And this is a guy that, of course, we wanted to trade, and I think he did have crappy games before. It's because he wasn't used to playing. He just wasn't used to getting the opportunity. Now he has it, dude.
Well, and again, reps is something that is going to be beneficial to any young starting center. And you're going to see growth and you're going to see ups and downs. And that's why I kind of asked you the question because I really don't feel like he's had a bad game this season. I think that he's had some bad moments. I mean, we referenced the game in which he was fumbling the ball a little bit. I mean, this was his 15th total game this season. It's his second start overall. And when I look at kind of how he's played, I don't remember a performance where I was just like, dude, that was horrible. I mean, the one game I think I was frustrated was against Washington. He went 1 for 7 from deep. But the Suns won by like 20 points in that game, so I don't know necessarily how much that mattered. But I think that he's really starting to make a case for anybody who's had those. We need to trade him. We need Thaddeus Young. A lot of people are starting to change their tune because he's displaying that when you give him minutes and you give him opportunities with the first team and you have Chris Paul, I mean, that's who set up that dunk was Chris Paul. And when you have those, when you give him that talent around him, he's showing that he really is a talented individual, much akin to how DeAndre Ayton was. DeAndre Ayton, you could always see the raw talent. You're just praying that he could put it together. You know, Jalen Smith in his entire career this is his 42nd overall game. Think about that. 42nd games this guy 42 games this guy has played this season, and we're just really scratching the surface of what his abilities are. We can see his foundation is fantastic, and again, this needs to put one, it ups his value. Obviously, a dunk like that all over Twitter is going to up your value across all fan bases.
Yes.
But true, but second, it's true that I don't think that we necessarily should even have to explore trading him now. He's proven that he
I know.
isn't it funny?
I know.
Like 3 podcasts ago, we're like, trade his ass.
That was my note I put.
I'll be
Don't
doing the
trade
same thing. Yeah, I'll be doing the same thing about Landry Shamet 2 podcasts where I had hashtag
yeah.
trade Shamet.
That's gonna
Now
take
I'm
some.
like,
That's gonna take some
I love
time.
him. That is.
That's gonna take some time.
He has scarred me.
But Stix has put up DeAndre Ayton stats. He has the last 4
Yeah.
games, dude. Like seriously, I mean, he has okay, so 15-9, 11-14, 19-7, and then 19-12.
Dude,
Those are his last games. Like that's stat. I keep calling him stat. DeAndre Ayton stats right there, dude. And it's basically it's just him getting warmed up, right? Who knows what the future holds for this guy? This is me always getting so high with these Suns players. They show a little bit of a flash, and I'm all over all-star, superstar. What's next for this guy, right?
Well, yeah, I know, right? Well, and again, the thing that always happens, and we have to be reminded of this because you make a great point. You just think back to Elfrid Payton when he was a starter for the Phoenix Suns a few years ago, and after 10 games, we're like, this guy's it. It's everything. And then, the league adjusts to players, and now that he is putting more film together and scouts can see what he's capable of, you might see some adjustments to how he plays and how he's defended. But I still think that you can't defend the way that he rebounds. You can't defend the way that he blocks shots. I mean, how many blocks did he end with tonight? How many, they
3.
never give full
I'm just
credit. Did
kidding.
you say 3?
I just threw that out there. Let me see.
It's 2, but I feel
2.
like there
Yeah.
was 3. I think there was one which they didn't count right off the bat. But I think
Always.
that always, you know.
Yeah.
But here's another question, and I saw this
Mhm.
from @ValleySports48 on Twitter. It says, does his play the last few games change the max contract Ayton argument at all? I know that it may seem ridiculous, but it feels like the center position on this team can be plug and play if it's the right person. What do you think of that?
Well, last time we were talking about how it wasn't, right? Because you couldn't replace DA. It was just a mess against the Boston Celtics and against the OKC Thunder because you're playing McGee there. But McGee is older. Stix has something to prove, a lot younger. He's even getting quicker too, just really quick. Stix is like he's not as slow as he was before, maybe because he's just more comfortable. He's super quick now, especially matching up against this Hornets team that's super quick. But I don't know. It's going to be one of those things where we always talk about this till this offseason, which is probably why they didn't pay DA, right? Because we're going to talk about this all year. It's not like they're like, hey, let's see what we have in Stix, because we barely played his ass until COVID hit, and then now we're playing him because they have no choice, and now he's kind of just putting up DA stats. So I mean, I don't know, man. It's one of these things we're going to go back and forth with, right?
Oh, but of course. I mean, but that's what makes it fun to talk about, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so again, I'll repeat the question. Does Jalen Smith's play the last few games change the max contract for Ayton argument at all? I say no. I say no. I think that again, Jalen Smith is definitely showing that he has talent. I don't know how that translates over a longer period of time. And what's nice is we're seeing it over, a blip here in late December, early January. We're seeing some consistent minutes for him, and we're seeing how he responds to those consistent minutes. And we're seeing how Chris Paul is utilizing him and building his confidence. So I definitely think that he's somebody who I'm pissed that we didn't extend him, give him a rookie extension. I'm pissed about that. But I don't think it changes the argument relative to DeAndre Ayton's max contract, because I still think, in my opinion, that you pay DeAndre Ayton the money because he's showing that he is a very unique individual inside the paint. I think that over a longer period of time, if we saw Jalen Smith do this consistently, yeah, it changes the argument. But again, this is 4 games at during a COVID-ridden season against opposition that isn't bringing all of their best talent. And,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, like, he's playing well. That's what you want to see. But I think it makes him more valuable as a trade asset than anything. Again, the fact that we did not, King Paw 242 says Stix is definitely leaving Phoenix. I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that. And he's definitely put together some highlights now that are, make him a more appealing to any organization that wants to bring him in, whether it's as a free agent at the end of the year or as part of a trade. Hoping that they can hold on to him for a couple more years after that trade.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it was fantastic to see him blocking Miles Bridges. He's got great timing on his blocks. That's one thing that's instinctual. You can't really teach the way that he goes after blocks. And as you mentioned, he looked a lot more graceful doing it. He wasn't fucking body slamming people tonight.
Yeah.
But what's fun with watching him play, and this will be kind of my last point on Stix before we move on, is watching him develop the way that he has in such a short time. It's almost like unlocking badges on 2K with him. Like, every game, he's unlocking something new. Like last game, like, he could block, but there were some fouls involved. Like this time, like, he learned not to do that, and it's just kind of fun.
Yeah, and really quick too, it's like coloring outside the lines. He's like, eventually, just every page in the coloring book, he's like trying to color inside the lines, dude. That's what he looks like. He's just more solid.
Yeah, exactly. He's growing up in front of our eyes. Another thing that was great about this game, obviously, is the fact that only Cameron Johnson hit 30 minutes. The rest of the team played, no one played more than 30 minutes on the entire squad. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players scoring double figures tonight. None of them were Chris Paul. None of them. He ended with a total of 7 points, but had 16 assists. Give it up for CP3. Give me your CP3 rant.
Oh, well, I mean, he came back into the fourth too with those 16 assists. I don't know if he was trying to hit like a high or something. Like, why is he still in the game? But when he's hitting like the pullback threes, like he hit in the third, I was like, okay, this game, it was already over. But when he's hitting those
it's really
threes,
over.
yeah, but it's just like it's always at a time where the game's over, or it's like Chris Paul takeover time, and that's exactly what happened tonight. But like I said earlier, he was like on the defense. I feel like he kind of led the defense tonight too, in ways of just filling the passing lanes and just getting tip balls. So he was doing that early in the game, just try to set the tone I think because they needed it. So he set the tone early, like Devin Booker in the first quarter, and it just rode out from there, man. He had a good game. I don't care really about the points. It's nice to see the assists get back up because I know he had a few games that were kind of lowered on the assist total. That's basically the other guys not making their shots too.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that knowing that he can jumpstart the team the way that he did, and that he dropped those 16 dimes, that's going to take him so close. He's at 9.9 assists per game. That might push him back over that 10 mark. I know it's a stupid thing to kind of want, but I like
Mhm.
having him lead the league with over 10 total assists per game. But again, he did what he was supposed to do tonight. And it was nice to know that the team could support him, because I think that was the trouble against Boston. Was he was trying to get the team to perform. He was trying to set them up. They just weren't knocking down the shots. So then he has to extend and expend a lot more energy, trying to go ahead and get the team just to stay afloat in the game. Tonight, everybody was
Mhm.
knocking the shit down. And again, him with Stix was just, it was fun to watch. So yeah, buddy. Let's see. Is there anything else in your notes that you want to hit before we jam star this bitch?
Let me just check really quick. I went over everything. I'm good.
Wow. Literally everything.
Seriously, dude, we hit on the same. So we have that chemistry now where you're just going through my notes almost, finishing each other's sentences.
Well, let's start with the jam stuff.
Jam star of the game.
All right, Jamsters, this is a reminder, if you're watching along live, please hit that thumbs up button on YouTube. If you're on Facebook or Twitter, head over to YouTube, hit the thumbs up. Let everyone know we're the best postgame pod on Planet Oranges. And if you're listening to the podcast, give us a 5-star review on Spotify and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you're on Stitcher or all those other places, just go one of those other platforms and do the same. And let us know in the chat who your jam star of the game is. Suns in 4 says MJ Walker with 3 steals. I actually did write a couple things in my notes about MJ Walker. I'm sorry. From Florida State, I liked his hustle. He was moving fluidly and making himself available by doing so. Wasn't hitting a bunch of jumpers. He took a couple threes, didn't necessarily come out successful on that. He went 8 minutes, 0 for 3. But he did have 3 steals and was hustling his ass off. So big fan of MJ Walker. Did you notice him at all, or by that point were you done?
Head in the phone.
There you
My
go.
head was in my phone.
Head in the phone. So happy birthday to Sonia Lovato. She says, happy birthday, jam star of the game day to me. Well, you went
Yeah, happy
50%,
birthday.
Sonia. You're like Matthew. You got the Suns to win, but the Cowboys lost,
Nice.
which we'll talk about
Capricorn.
momentarily. So, Capricorn.
Oh,
Matthew
you
and his
saved it for
Capricorn.
last, huh?
Oh, yeah. We'll be talking about that game.
Huh?
We'll talk
All
about
right.
that game.
That's fine. I don't care. Let's go.
I'm giving it to Stix for damn sure.
Mhm.
I think that he just, again, played fantastic. He set the tone. He had the highlight dunk. Is there anyone else who's worthy? I mean, Devin Booker, as we mentioned kind of at the front end of the podcast, those 24 points in only 29 minutes, I mean, definitely productive, but I got to give it to Stix, man.
I got to go Stix too. Even like just his hustle on the second chance, but he was like just always tipping balls when he was in the area to his teammates, which was nice to see because he was running with that Hornets team, which is something you would never expect from Stix. I'm telling you, man, he got a little fast tonight, a little too quick for the way he used to be. I just think that him just being comfortable out there is really just equaling him, and his quickness just kind of going up a couple notches.
Yeah, it's really fun to see somebody who progresses that way in such a short period of time. Because I mean, he really should get owned. I mean, let's not lie. I mean, Mason Plumlee has made DA look dumb sometimes, just with his physicality. But I think that Jalen Smith really has the capacity to just, again, instinctively he has a very solid foundation. So very excited to see him play the way that he did, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays moving forward and what kind of minutes he allots moving forward. Because again, probably by the next game, which is the Suns at the Pelicans, which will be on Tuesday, in theory, we should have DA back. And JaVale McGee, I don't know. I don't think he'll be back yet. So you'll definitely see Stix in some backup minutes. But when you take a look at the next matchup for the Phoenix Suns, they're going against the 13-23 New Orleans Pelicans, a team that currently is the 14th overall seed in the Western Conference out of 15 teams. Currently, let's see what they got here. Dalton Holmes, I don't know who that is. He's out with a fibula. Brandon Ingram's day-to-day with an Achilles. Kyra Lewis is out for the season with his knee. Najee Marshall, I don't know who that is, health and safety protocols. Thomas Sadaransky, who came over in the trade for Lonzo Ball, out due to health and safety protocols. Jonas Valanciunas, health and safety protocols. And Zion Wilson out for being fat. What are you expecting in this game? I mean, looks like it's a game where they're going to be depleted. They're obviously a team that's not good to begin with. We should wax this team too, right? If we bring the energy.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually thinking if you want to bet the over-under, I'm going to go under 15 and a half minutes from DeAndre Ayton. One guy that you can count on for probably not being in shape coming back. And plus, with the COVID, it's going to be DA because he's always super tired, right? So he'll just be, trying to get his feet. It's not a knock on him. I'm just saying I think he's just going to be out of shape in this game to come back. And I think it'll be a game where, of course, Stix will continue his energy. Bismack proving himself to maybe get an extension.
Dude,
so you just feed those guys again, even though we had it tonight. I'm not just saying that because of tonight. I just think it's something we can do against this Pelicans team, who, of course, like you just listed all those injuries, COVID listings. It's just going to be a different team. I mean, they're not even really a team right now, so it should be an easy win. Probably not as easy as tonight, but it's something that the Suns should just pick up early and just continue like they did tonight, even into the third, and just end it in the third quarter, and then hopefully get these starters even more rest because we got to get those legs underneath us to finish out this later half of the season.
Yeah, I think that tonight showed how the Suns can be when they have the right amount of energy. I think that over the past couple weeks, we've had some frustration relative to their energy levels at the beginning of games, and they'll get behind. And that's what the story of the Warriors game was, right? Was they just didn't come out with the right energy. Even Monty Williams said at the end of the game that they didn't match their energy. The following game, they didn't match the energy. I feel like Boston, they didn't match their energy. And I think that tonight they came out with that energy. And that's the key to the game to me, is if the Suns come out with energy, focused, they're going to dominate this team. They should, because following this game, they play the Clippers in LA. So if there's an opportunity for the, quote unquote trap game. But I think one thing that will prevent that is a couple guys are going to be out there and they're going to be hungry. If Bismack Biyombo gets an opportunity to play some minutes, he's going to still be hungry and he can perform as we saw. Even Eddie Johnson said it tonight on the broadcast. He was just like, this guy looks like he's been a part of the team all year. And I would like him to continue to be a member of this team all year for the rest of the season. So I definitely think that, this is a team that we should dominate. This always brings up the Zion conversation. He's a player who hasn't played at all this season. He's a former number 1 overall pick. He's becoming the Greg Oden of the 2019 draft class, unfortunately for Zion. This is a team that we beat by 12 points in the first game that we played them earlier in the season, which was our 6th overall game of the season. It was actually the second win in that 18-game win streak. But, I could ask you how disappointed you are in the whole Zion situation. I think I know, but if you want to tell anybody.
I'm not. I feel bad for the dude, actually. I'm on the other side. I just think it's a point where he's getting big and I forget what player it was who struggled with weight. And I might have been Antonio Bennett for the Cavaliers. I think it was Antonio Bennett. I think that was his name.
First
overall pick, and he struggled with weight, and he heard about it all the time, and it really got to him mentally, and I think that really hurt him as even getting on track to being a decent player. So I hope it's not the same case. I think Zion's probably mentally stronger than Antonio, but it's just something where nowadays you got to be careful just because these players do read all that, and I think it does get into their heads. I'm not saying that Zion cares. And hopefully he doesn't care. He just focuses on his own shit. He can get in shape and be a dominant player. But if he can come back and be that guy, it'd be awesome. I just kind of feel bad for the dude right now. I don't know why. I'm just on that side.
Well, of course I feel bad for him. He is, when he's on the court, an elite player, a generational player maybe, but we definitely saw how he was unstoppable against the Suns last year, right? There was no answer for that guy. There just isn't, but it's, Buck Dog says in the chat, he goes, he was always destined to be an injured bust. No one believed
Anthony Bennett. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
But Buck Dog, I believe you because I was saying the same shit. Matthew, you were saying the same shit too, right? It was the way that you looked at him as a freshman at Duke, how large this guy was, and the way that he ran up and down the court. And you and I used to comment on it all the time when we were watching the tournament. We were getting ready for that draft because obviously the Phoenix Suns had a shot at Zion. We should have had him. And I remember you and I watching and having those conversations about whether, Zion or Ja. We were both Ja people because it looked
I wanted
like Zion.
I did want Zion.
Yeah, I wanted Ja 100%.
Yeah, you did. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did. And it's because I knew that Zion, because of his body type, is somebody who, now I didn't think he'd struggle with weight this much, but I'm like, this is a guy who's going to have knee and ankle and feet problems his whole career. You could see it. And guess what? Sure enough, knee, ankle, and foot problems his whole career thus
Yeah.
far, and he's missed more games than he's played in. And again, as you mentioned, it's just kind of sad, right? It's just kind of sad.
It is sad. Just come back, Zion. We love you.
We'll see. We'll see, Zion. So, all right, let's see. See if we got any other drops here. Let's get positive, Matthew. Let's talk about how this is like the first time that I can remember in a long time that not only the Phoenix Suns won, but the Arizona Cardinals won on the same damn day. On a day where Kyler Murray goes down to Texas, plays the Dallas Cowboys in a stadium that he's owned since he was like in high school. Somehow, some way, they hang on, in my opinion. They didn't win this game. They hung on because they looked like shit in the second half. How about them Cowboys?
Oh, this is playoff. This is why I gave up 5 weeks ago for the Cowboys. Cowboys look so good the first half of the season. Then once Dak hits to where he's not throwing it past 6, 7, or 8 yards, it's over because he is the X factor. Obviously, he's a quarterback, but this is the way they play. This is the playoff Cowboys team. This is the way the first playoff game is going to go. They're going to start off score nothing because Dak cannot throw the ball downfield. He doesn't trust his arm. When Kyler Murray is throwing the ball downfield and he's throwing it over the Cowboys cornerbacks' heads, that's how you throw the freaking ball. Even if they're not open, Dak, trust your freaking arm or else you're not going to win. Zeke is not in shape. Well, he might be in shape, but he's injured. He's not fast. He can't do anything. He had 30 yards today.
He doesn't have any explosive.
Take him out, put in Pollard. This team right now, offensively, is really going to let this defense down because this defense is the best I've ever seen since the 90s Cowboys. And they're going to let them down because they're not going to score shit against the team they play in the playoffs. And they're just going to lose the same, but they're going to come back almost in the end and lose. They do this all the time. This is why I give up on them. This is why I stopped watching them. This is why I stopped watching them at halftime today. And then I came back a little bit when it was 22-25. I'm like, okay, let me see if this is going to happen. And then it's just, no, because this is what happens all the time. So congrats, Cardinals, because this is, if you play the Cowboys in the first, second, and third round, you're making the Super Bowl.
So obviously, if anybody who's new listening or watching the podcast, I'm a diehard Cardinals fan. Matthew's a diehard Cowboys fan. His family's from Texas. My family's from Arizona. That's the why, if you will. But it was one of those games where we needed the Cardinals needed to get out to a lead because I knew that you could just see that, when Kyler Murray starts doing I'm on my back foot, just chucking it and falling over, doing some of those prayers and overshooting guys, you're like, we're going to give this game back. And they almost did that today. I will say, though, Kyler Murray has the worst body language I've ever seen from a quarterback in the NFL.
Absolutely.
And that includes Cam Newton. I can't stand Cam Newton because I hated his body language. But like Kyler Murray, he's like a little kid who is like, we all played basketball with the guy growing up who was just so much better than everyone else on the court, right? And he'd pass you the ball, and you're like, oh, shit, I finally got the ball, and you shoot it, and you miss it, and he'd be like, oh, fuck, he'd throw the head bob and all that stuff. So I'm glad that we obviously won this game. We needed to. We were on a 3-game losing streak. Now both of our teams are 11-5. I was really pissed that the fucking Rams came back and beat the Ravens because we would have had the division at that point. We would be in the driver's seat going into the last week. So now we have to, beat a team, and then San Francisco has to beat them, whatever. But it was nice to get that win. I'm sorry about Michael Gallup. Did you see he's out for the season?
Yeah,
ACL, man.
That's Dak's dude too when he's out.
Yeah,
like he can't really manage without him. So
big time. So, but it was sweet to beat the Cowboys. It's always special. I don't remember the last time the Cardinals lost to the the one time I went to the game. It was a Monday night like 3 years ago. I think it was on my birthday. My wife got me tickets to it. We went down to the stadium, and the Cardinals got their ass kicked. But I mean, when you have Josh Rosen as your quarterback, like, do you expect to win? I don't think so. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. A little Cowboys Cardinals talk. And right now, I'm definitely watching that Green Bay Packers Vikings game because I'm in the fantasy Super Bowl, and I got a battle going on against my brother. So he's got Devontae Adams going right now, who currently has 8 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. Fuck him. I've got Aaron Jones. He's still got a guy tomorrow. So, but on that note, we will be coming to you live again on Tuesday. I will be in Palm Desert that day. So.
Okay.
Going back out to Palm Desert, but I think the traveling is almost done. My internet looks like it held up tonight, which is fantastic. It's because a lot of people have left the house for the holidays, so that's great. But we will be coming to you live on Tuesday, following the Suns versus the Pelicans game. Again, Jamsters, we appreciate you hanging out with us for an hour after the Suns destroyed the Hornets. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. Maybe you make sure you give us that thumbs up down below if you're watching this podcast. But until Tuesday, everybody, cheers. It was a great day. Cardinals win, Suns win. I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, nothing like ending it with a V8. Go home and love your family, everybody.
V8 this guy. Take care, everybody. We'll see you.